Type into Google the term school UFO encounter and it won't be New Zealand that springs forth in the first dozen pages. The book 100 UFO schoolyard encounters doesn't even list the 4 Kiwis in this video. The go-to global blueprint event occurred in an equally hard to place on the map location for most people. Dominates the Google metrics for school and UFO placed together. Ruwa, Zimbabwe, 1994 is widely touted as the reference point for us as we go forth to discuss more local encounters of no concrete evidence kind. Ariel School is the granddaddy of close encounters, without getting into messy internal probes, delving into, say, Freudian thoughts manifesting in people's heads. I will now attempt to paraphrase what is said to have happened to 62 pupils aged 6 to 12 at the semi-rural private school on the edge of the capital, Harare. Virtually the entire school are claimed to have witnessed a hovering silver spaceship decking itself on the school grounds. Then small grey, sometimes black in some accounts, aliens popped out the top of the craft and communicated telepathically to the scared crowd of children. As previously mentioned, there's dozens of videos on YouTube on this, going into far greater depth than I can. What did the aliens have to say? Take care of the planet. And then off they buzzed into the cosmos, expending the other half of their lifespans going home and travelling over 3 billion light years to arrive on this pale blue dot. These highly intelligent species never bothered to think. Twigged, a house call with the message to the United Nations might have more impact on the 98.3% chimp inhabitants. The byproduct of inducing a global terror. This would somehow be a great way to start a world tour versus, say, an obscure third world school where it took 2 days before anything of what happened even got out. Even if you did settle on a school, why not leave a cosmic postcard, a ray gun for example, or perhaps produce a more important warning to mankind, like, "You are making yourselves stupid, idolising stupid people." Allowing the settings on that ray gun you left behind to be able to vaporise Instagram influencers at 30,000 paces. If we looked at this from the perspective of little grey and black men, this was the interplanetary version of feeding the ducks, yet it remains the go-to event when aliens paid a visit upon earthling brats. Zimbabwe 1994 has all the same traits as the visions of the Blessed Mary, Spain early 60s, where believers did all the interviews. The children were not interviewed alone, but in groups of, say, 6, as in Ariel School, where we saw witness reports change to conform to that group, even the groups ahead of them. A prime example of this was calling the aliens' eyes evil. That term was adopted by the second group after hearing it from the first and continued down the line. Then if we look into these testimonies, there's the little matter of the aliens that were reported could be seen in the background as a spacecraft departed off the planet. Did Robert Mugabe get them evicted along with the white farmers? Cross-contamination stuck out like dog's balls in Zimbabwe. And then there were, at this time, 2 days before to be precise, these babies, fresh off the Ukrainian launch pads, Russian Zenit rockets, bits of them, the spectacular entry thereof, which just happened to be over southern Africa at the time. The main conclusion by observers in towns and villages for these objects scooting across the night sky, and given the Secretary of Russia, more in this case because of their high failure rate, not making good propaganda, they preferred to keep them thus hush-hush, at least they blew up in front of the Western media. The conclusion from people on the ground at the time was they were alien craft, a perfect storm. Why am I running my cutthroat razor over this incident. You'll see many comparisons with other sightings, not least mass hysteria. Lesser known and forgotten sightings, even to the locals of the North and South Islands, is New Zealand had its own Ruwa incident. Indeed, more than one case of UFO meet and greets over schools. New Zealand's biggie happened on the 8th of May 1970, Richmond School, Napier, east coast of the North Island. You'll see from that headline, New Zealand media at the time were more circumspect in their description as to what the pupils and their teachers observed. Whilst the majority of observers were the primary aged pupils at Richmond School, some of those eyewitnesses are literally now staring back at you. The only written testimony I could find and access comes from the headmaster, one Mr. W. Billing, and a teacher, Mr. A. Coveney. What did those two have to say? Their descriptions of the 20-minute encounter included recounts of
a hole in the sky. It was like a huge wingless plane with sun glistening on it. Huge glowing planet.
Even more intriguing, the two gents, who were clearly not involved with art classes, left us these sketches. Indeed, as described, intriguing. Fermenting in the background, by this time New Zealand had already embraced the overseas UFO mania that came out of the 60s. Like other occupants on planet Earth, theorised their origins, argued whether they were real or not, and Kiwi believers, the ones that did believe, were thin on the ground to start with. Ridiculed on occasion when humble thistle seeds, aided and abetted by humans' poor ability to judge distance accurately, turned out to be the terrestrial explanation, remained just as undeterred and staunch as their overseas cohorts when other more earthly explanations were plonked on the table. And then there was the burgeoning genre of science fiction. By 1970, there was a television in every lounge. Even viewed through black and white, Kiwis could differentiate between a Yeti and a Cyberman. There was slim pickings on the one state-run television channel. Jerry Anderson's new series made UFOs easily and indelibly identifiable. Kiwi households could rest easy, knowing rendering you a standard double barrel in the unlocked cupboard could deter one. Before you go thinking a UFO was just a children's program, I'll start by showing you both of these. There was plenty going on in the 3 years of that series, off in terms of costuming, to attract a large adult audience to ogle at the former Miss World runner-up and Michael Caine's squeeze, Shakira, which I would pay handsomely to do in terms of squeezing, to which I think I could add the odd Napier school teacher. Now, as he loses the whole flow of the video by mentioning Wanda Ventham, she was also in the cast, and she was also Benedict Cumberbatch's mum, as well as God Evidence, folk singer Nick Drake's sister, Gabrielle, who moonlighted on the Moon base in soft porn movies, even whilst the series was going on. Let's face it, Jerry Anderson was top-notch when it came to casting. Finally, to get the show now back on the road, Napier was far from the first time aliens flashed Kiwi kids. And for that, we need to go back to July 1947. Ashburton, South Island. A white object with silvery spots was eyeballed by school pupils going home to lunch. Ah yes, the good old days when mums were at home baking, and bunking meant getting a right royal thrashing. Fast forward 9 years and back up north, 50-odd bug-eyed boys and assorted masters described a white spinning object larger than a moon over Hamilton Boys High one afternoon. Described somewhat loosely in the media as a strange sky object, a perfect disc by those on the ground. Extraterrestrial tourism was now doing a boom. New Zealand Tourist Board's efforts in a galaxy far away were now reaping rewards. The aliens were on a roll. Alright, a spin, which is apparently what spacecraft do. For aerodynamic reasons it escaped me, since space is of course a vacuum, meaning NASA has been on the wrong track since day one. A year later, in Earth years, still up north, pupils from Taradale School in the Hawke's Bay laid eyes on a silver cigar object cruising over the nearby Redcliffe Hills. "25 kilometres away, and a decade later, the fourth one I'm going to cover, a dozen odd kids at Taradale School in Havelock North had an unidentified flying object make a 10-minute cameo over the neighbouring orchard. Descriptions there were: it was ticking, as in a clock, saucer-shaped, had a hatch and an antennae. Nice touch, the antennae. Size-wise, it was estimated to be half that of the school pool. Most of the witnesses at the time were in and around that pool. Four incidences. What to make of them? Clearly we are not alone. We being New Zealand, not mankind, or man-crawl if you watch any of the videos out of Ukraine. New Zealand was far been alone in this era when it came to spacecraft and aliens visitating schools. The fact centres of education were regularly open, unlike today, assuredly helped bump up those stats. Some examples from around the globe around that time were Westall School, Melbourne, 1966. Hillsdale College, Michigan, the same year. Crestview Elementary in 67. Steeple Ashton, UK, a decade later. Same year, just across the border in Wales, in Broadhaven. As I said at the beginning, there's enough material for someone to pen schoolyard UFO encounters, 100 true accounts, starting all the way back in Tennessee 1853, and that's without even New Zealand's contributions I've mentioned here. Good question that. Malleable, less sceptical minds? Question mark. Mere intelligent beings from other galaxies who can't differentiate between institutions on Earth. A nondescript school versus, say, a parliament building. Seems like a vast distance to cover, with it a huge dent in lifespan, to simply haze earthlings with the greatest imaginations. Anyway, I've prattled on long enough here. Let me know what you think. Believers and non-believers are welcome to plonk comments. And clearly I'm in the latter clique, the non-believers, as I really police comments. Thanks for tuning in. I hope to spot you next time. Bye for now.